And hello, everyone. My name is Maria. I'm the woman who called the Leadership Fellow for the Emerging Tech track. Today, we are on the Digital Transformation webinar, Stories from Experts to Empower Your Career. Our speakers, John Cullen is an Associate Director of SThree in Manchester. With 15 years of experience in SThree working across different sectors, he has a real passion to support customers with their staffing challenges to help them deliver their projects on time. I will now pass the floor to John, who will introduce the rest of the speakers and be the moderator for our panel today. John?
Thank you very much, Maria, and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are joining us from in the world today. As Maria said, I work for SThree. I'm the Associate Director for our Manchester office. We're a STEM staffing business and support clients and customers throughout the world, delivering various different projects, particularly around today's topic of digital transformation. I'll pass over to Cloë first of all to introduce yourself, Cloë.
Hi everyone, I'm Cloë Wilkin. I work at Asda as a Group Technical Delivery Manager in our e-commerce team, and we are working on Europe's largest retail transformation programme in Asda at the moment.
Lovely stuff. And if I can pass to Natasha.
Hello everyone, my name is Natasha Hewer. I work for Digital. We are responsible for working with clients to help guide them on their digital transformation strategies, to equip them with the skills that they need to be able to transform and to build incredible products for them. So I'm coming with that experience to today.
And last but not least, our final panelist, Cloë.
Hi, Cloë Atkinson. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Mortgage Brain. We're a mortgage technology company, and previously I was one of the founder members of a business called Mortgage Engine, which transformed the mortgage application journey to a 20-second digital application.
Lovely. So thank you very much, everyone, for introducing themselves. We're going to open up the webinar and look at our big ticket item. So we're going to look at what is digital transformation, and in particular, what does it mean for you and how does it influence your role? And if I can ask you, Cloë, as overseeing the Walmart and Asda transition, to give your thoughts on what you see digital transformation as.
Thanks, John. So from my perspective, obviously there's two lenses. There's what does digital transformation means to the business, and there's many different kind of interpretations, I think, of digital transformation. So for me, it's where you're delivering a significant impact to the business through new digital technologies. But in terms of what it means for me and how it's changed in terms of my world, it's digital transformation is very much more in terms of how we deliver, and that mindset change, which is very different to traditional projects that you kind of probably used to delivering. When I embarked on this journey of our transformation here at Asda, it was very big, very complex. You kind of in a world of where do we start? How do we even break this massive elephant down into the chunks? And I think you've got to have that kind of acknowledgement that you're not going to have a set plan that you can work with straight away, that will run to time and budget, etc. You've got to be able to dissect it down, pivot where need be flexible, and understand that you've got an endpoint, but that path to that endpoint isn't quite as linear as you might think it would be. So that I feel is where sort of that digital transformation change for me is kind of how you deliver something and being prepared to have that open mindset when going into something significant.
Brilliant. Thank you for going through that. Would any of the other panelists like to give their interpretation of digital transformation in their own eyes?
I think that Cloë summarised it really well. For me, it's the integration of digital tech into businesses and changing the way they operate. And a lot of the time it's about what they do and the culture in which they need to change at the same time. So I always think of it in like people, process, platforms or tech, and then any data side and the metrics. So it's us transforming all of that at the same time. So and my role is around guiding organizations to go on that journey and not just launch a new product in the hope it solves everything, but also to launch that new product because maybe it is that new product which we need.
Excellent stuff. We'll move on to our next question, and I'll direct this to yourself, Cloë, if that's okay. So what unexpected turns did your career take to get you into the position that you're in currently?
So I suppose I've had a fairly unconventional career in that I started as an accountant, as a graduate accountant in a bank, and took a role looking after the finances and audit for the mortgage division. And I suppose one Friday afternoon, kind of, looking at how that business worked, spotted a gap where technology could solve a problem. And I suppose at that stage kind of started to formulate an idea of actually moving into more of a technology space and being able to create a business that would help not only our bank, but also the industry. And I suppose some of the things I had to do to be able to make that transition, I went on a learn to code in a weekend course, did a couple of weekends kind of learning to code, spent a lot of time reading books about other digital transformation businesses that have been successful, about other businesses in the industry, and talking to a lot of people, and also got myself an Agile qualification so that I felt like I understood the arena and the type of business that I was moving into. I suppose one of the big things about kind of career change and making a change for yourself is really about believing in yourself and believing what it is that you're about to do. I suppose I worked with a lot of people that didn't agree necessarily that the industry needed this technology, and so actually it was around kind of believing in what I wanted, understanding that the technology could help, and actually pushing through and taking calculated risks, I suppose, with your career, not necessarily ones that you can't afford to do, but kind of building yourself up to a place where you can make those changes and really improve yourself. I suppose, what do I do now to help other people in their careers? I suppose I've got a kind of a mantra. Whenever I'm recruiting for a new role, we receive CVs. My recruitment team have to send me, for every 2 male CVs, they have to send me a female CV, and that works really well for me. They don't always get the job because they're not necessarily most qualified, but it means that we're looking at a breadth and a variety of candidates in this industry, and it's very male orientated here in the UK. So it just means that we're and I've got examples where I have recruited the female candidate and they've been absolutely excellent, because actually their other skills really suited the role much better, and wasn't necessarily the recruitment consultant's first choice. So that's kind of where I tried to push the agenda a little bit. I suppose 7 years ago, would I have thought that I would be COO of a 30-year-old technology company with 80 tech professionals working for me? No, but I suppose that's just how it goes, and sometimes you don't know exactly how life's going to pan out, but it's about seeing those opportunities, working hard at them, and believing in yourself, as I've already said.
Nice. I was going to ask that question if prior to that Friday thought you'd ever thought about a career in technology, but you answered it there.
No, absolutely not.
And anyone else got anything to kind of share around kind of unexpected career turns or anything that stand out to themselves?
Just to sort of build like to the point about how your career path kind of has a spider web kind of way of working its way through, really. So my degree was in history, completely nothing to do with technology. I never thought that, to Chloe's point, I'd be in a technology department and running a team in that way. And it's just how events in my career have taken on, and I think technology, particularly in the digital space, has become more and more prevalent. That you need to be in that space, really, to understand it and to support it, because virtually everything that we do has got a technology focus, and therefore I feel like you kind of get a nook and you start exploring something and you get an interest, and then it snowballs from there. And I think it's taking every opportunity and investigating them little opportunities that come along and see where it takes you, because I think it's never that sort of ladder approach that you're led to believe right at the beginning.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And sticking to a similar theme, what skills did you have to learn quickly on the job to be successful? And I'll aim that one to yourself, Natasha, if that's all right.
Yeah, so I'm similar to Claire in that I did a theatre degree, so never thought I'd end up working in tech. Just kind of pivoted through operational management. And I noticed on the chat, a lot of people are software developers. So I'm going to focus my answer on what you need to know other than tech, if that's okay, because I think really this industry requires really T-shaped individuals. So you either come in with no tech knowledge, in which case you've got to learn quickly and find your network. Or alternatively, you come in with a great tech knowledge. But actually, I definitely think within digital transformation, the skills that are needed are really great communication skills, by which I mean you need to be disruptive and challenge the status quo, but you need to be able to do that in a way that is palatable to the people that you're speaking to, if that makes sense. So actually, maybe they have suggested a requirement that doesn't make sense, but you can go back and say, oh, well, the problem I think you're trying to solve is X. I'm wondering if we could solve it by doing X, Y, and Z because I've seen A, B, and C. And I wanted to call that out as something that I've definitely had to grow in my career. I think I always started with a very flexible mindset, was perhaps too direct at times, and it just didn't get me the buy-in I needed. Other things I've got in my notes for this one are around communication, especially if you're in a leadership role, around having a really clear vision and being able to communicate to people where you want to go. I noticed an Agile delivery manager also is on the call, so that might resonate with them. Or storytelling as well. When I've been taking people on a journey, referring to companies like Nokia and Polaroid, which people know haven't maybe thrived, is the nicest way I put it. And actually being able to say why we want to thrive is really important to buy people in. So for me, it's been communication, I think, and I wouldn't put that second to set technical skills. It needs to grow at the same time to enable you to progress. The other thing I think is that growth mindset. So you do have to keep learning and learn all the time because everything's changing. The people around you is changing, the tech's changing, your customers changing. And also getting really comfortable with failing because sometimes you think you came up with the best thing since sliced bread and it turns out it doesn't work. And I think you grow a lot more respect within your career. And I've learned it by saying this didn't work and not over committing to begin with, but saying this didn't work and this is what we're going to do now. So hopefully that gives you some insight as to what I've had to learn or my mistakes.
Yeah, thank you. I've definitely seen the Nokia through to an iPhone slide plenty of times and that change. But thank you for sharing. Many of the members sort of ask about finding a mentor and that being really important. And obviously, with you all sharing that you're not from a kind of tech background, I'm sure they've been quite important in your own sort of careers. So how did you go about kind of finding mentors and allies at work to help you? Can I aim that at Cloë, please?
Hi, yeah, I suppose I've had lots of different mentors over the course of my career. You know, early on, my aunt was a real kind of like kind of role model for me, and she was kind of like an early mentor. I've had really formal mentors that were kind of assigned to me when I worked at the bank, and we had a very formal relationship and met at set times. Really good for career progression and talking about where I wanted to go and trying to plan out some of those stages. But I suppose one of the things that really helped me to make my previous business, Mortgage Engine, really successful was kind of creating a wide range of people I talked to, and not necessarily in a very strict mentor way, but a kind of a network of peers that you could kind of talk about as mentors. So I had a really wide range and tried to really pick different people that had different skill sets and different opinions to talk to about different topics, to try and I suppose to get wide-ranging opinions on different issues, and because actually, you know, yes, you've probably got a really good idea, but it isn't necessarily fully formed, and the way to get that to a fully formed state is by getting lots of opinions and having lots of conversations. So I suppose there's a few different ways to do that. I always said to people, look, I think you need to tell someone why you want their opinion. Be really be flattering, and I think you're a real expert in this field and I'd really like your opinion. I always would say, can I take you for a coffee? Can I buy you a glass of wine? It needs to be a reciprocal kind of arrangement where either you're going to be able to give them something that will help them in their job, career or project, or actually, you know, kind of something like that where the relationship is two-way. And actually I read something a while ago about kind of an older guy was mentoring a new entrant into their career, and he thought it was going to be a one-way situation and he'd just give them career advice, etc. But actually it ends up being a really reciprocal relationship, because the younger person was able to give him insight into how that part of the market that he operated in, the mindset of a younger person, what they're looking at, how they wanted to be marketed to, all that kind of thing. And so actually, you know, I think you need to not necessarily just suck dry everyone that's all around you and try and take all of their information and their opinions, but actually, what can I offer in this relationship as well? I think the other thing when you're going to have a meeting with someone or to have a coffee or what have you, is to make sure you've got a really clear idea about what you want to talk about and be upfront about that with them, because no one wants to be kind of sideswiped. So, you know, be honest, understand what it is you want to get out of it, and have that conversation relatively directly. Obviously, you know, you don't want to be kind of firing questions at them, but that kind of thing I think really helps. And the other thing is you've got to be really open to feedback. So not everyone is going to love your idea or love the way that you're doing things. So actually, in the meeting at the time, you know, smile, you say thank you, and it's really hard to take negative feedback. I get that, but actually be self-reflective, go back, think about what they've said, think about, was it how I positioned myself that maybe didn't get my point across correctly? Actually, does my idea need a pivot or a shift? Is it not quite right? But actually be open to that feedback, because no one's going to want to mentor you if all that you want to hear is great compliments. So that I think is really important. And then finally, you've got to be genuine to yourself. So don't pretend to be something that you're not, or try and fabricate something that you are not. You know, be yourself. Understand yourself. If someone says something you don't understand it, be honest and say, look, I'm really sorry, I just don't get what you're coming at. Would you be able to explain that in a different way? And people are really, really open to that.
Thanks for sharing. I think that self-awareness is really important, because that's where your growth comes from, and knowing your current limitations and what you want to kind of work on. Anything else from the panelists around kind of mentors or allies?
I think Cloë articulated it really well in terms of, you know, seeking out people that you really admire and that you want to learn from. And I've found actually there's quite a lot of mentoring schemes available, whether it be in your own organisation or elsewhere. So, you know, investigate what is available. And if something isn't available, or you really want to connect with somebody that you admire, and you think that you'll learn from, just approach them and say, you know, am I really looking for a mentor? Think you, to Chloe's point, I think you'd be a good fit for this reason, and, you know, hopefully be complimentary of why that is. And, you know, that will help sort of establish that network, and also even if they don't have the capacity, which obviously is a challenge for people, everybody's very busy, you know, they might be able to recommend somebody else who, you know, is suitable in that respect. So I think just be brave and go out there and sort of seek people where possible, if there's not anything formal in your organisation that can help.
Brilliant. Thank you. And just thinking of the subject of technology and digital transformation, obviously it's rapidly evolving, changing all the time, new technologies and disruptors coming to the market. How do you currently go about facing uncertainty in such a rapidly evolving field? If I can ask Natasha.
I think it's a really good question. I think firstly, it's asking yourself whether you want to work in this field. So as engineers, I've worked with some great engineers, but some of them don't want to work on the newest thing that we're trying to get out to the organisation. Actually, what they prefer to work on is something more stable. So my first thing is really be honest with yourself as to whether this is the field you want. Because if it is, when you go into job interviews, showing that you're a curious individual who's interested in helping the business move forward, is interested in new tech, is going to work really well. So my first one is really working out that it's a field that works for you. And for me, it has been. I didn't know, but as I've kind of developed my career through the wiggly squiggly path it's gone on, I've realised that actually this is where my sweet spot is. I would definitely give advice around personal resilience, that if it's something you haven't built so far, or people on the call haven't built so far, because it's an uncertain field, it's really important to know how you react when you're stressed, how you react if you feel like you're taking things personally. I know for me, during COVID, I was working on a big project for the UK government, and obviously during COVID, we needed to pivot because they needed our resources and our engineers to do something different. And that meant that I really needed to think about, how do I manage stress? What does stress look like in me? Am I feeling stressed because this thing I was really invested in has changed? And I'd say, if you are working and you want to work in digital transformation, think about your own self-awareness, your boundaries, any courses, look at that, because it does have a personal impact. If you've been working on something and you feel uncertain, work out who your network is that's going to give you some confidence. And then finally, I was thinking in this question, get all the knowledge and control you can get. So you can grow your skills. You can go out there and you can learn the tech that you think is about to hit the market. Whether or not that's useful or not, you should be able to understand that. You can learn about the customer. And sometimes that's really useful, because you can see the BBC publishes something, and sorry for those people who don't access the BBC, but the BBC publishes something. So you can think through, okay, what's the impact on my project? And I can be prepared for that nice and early. Yeah, you can grow your network, grow your skills, learn and grow different capabilities that you think might be useful. And I think for me, then it's just about, you have to accept that it is uncertain, but you can be prepared for it both personally and professionally. And I think that's the best way to work. But I don't know if others have different answers to this one.
Great tips. Any others from the room around dealing with and facing uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean, I think I completely agree with Natasha in that it's around kind of, you have to be an individual that can cope in that situation, or you have to get yourself into a place where you can cope in those situations. And the reality is, it's a job, it's work. We're not brain surgeons, we're not performing life-saving operations. So yes, it's important, we need to pay the bills, and what we do, is great for the industries that we work in. But actually, you have to be able to close a laptop and not think about work, or let work disrupt the rest of your life. And that's true of any industry and anything you work in. And specifically, if you're going to come into kind of volatile or uncertain, rapid change type environments, you have to be able to allocate the time that you need to think about it and do a good job, and then come away, because your brain can't cope with being at that kind of high stress level 24/7. And so that would be my advice, is you have to be able to divide things up, use the energy when you need it, be focused, get it done, and then go home. Whether that be for 8 hours or 12 hours because of the hours that you're working, but to be able to switch off, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, we have an initiative at SThree around Thrive. It's called Thrive, and it's around mental and physical well-being. It's very much speaks to that, about giving yourselves the breaks, making sure that you are physically and mentally sharp, and that you're not procrastinating and drowning almost in the work and stuff. So some really good tips there. And a question for you, Cloë. So obviously going through a huge transformation project, one that obviously is largest in Europe. So at this point in your career, what are some of the challenges that you're wrestling with as you work to position yourself as a thought leader in the industry?
Yeah, so it's been a very challenging kind of program. So I've been working on this program for 2.5 years now, and I think one of the key challenges that we're facing is that we've got a business that still needs to actually perform and meet our customer needs, still needs to be maintained, at the same time as almost like we're kind of doing a startup and starting afresh with regards to all of our systems. So for those who don't know, Walmart, public knowledge, has been sold. Asda, has been sold from Walmart, and so we're moving off all of our Walmart systems and moving on to new technologies, new SaaS products, etc. So it's very sort of significant in terms of the full business is changing. So we've got lots of dependencies that we have to work with other teams on within the business, that things that need to be in place before we can plan our change. Like I say, the business is still moving at pace, so we've got changes going on in the business that we need to keep on top of and incorporate into our transitions as well. And I think one of the other challenges that is difficult for us is that we've got a range of different new products that we are working with, and they're changing all the time as well. So they've got upgrades that we need to accommodate for. AI is becoming obviously a hot dynamic, and there's some really good stuff that it can do and produce. And I'd love to kind of get stuck in and really explore what we could do as a business there. However, we've got to land what we need to do first before we can even kind of look to you know, that nice shiny kind of prize further down the line. So we're kind of got BAU constantly changing. We've got our work that we need to do, which, as I say, you know, kind of getting into that uncertain kind of territory where we're kind of trying to form a path, and it, you know, it can pivot at any time. And then we've got the roadmap that the business would like to do, we'd like to do from a technology standpoint. You know, that's coming down the line, that all the time we're kind of collecting these ideas, these, you know, formulating, you know, where we can head next, and we've got to kind of have one eye on that as well. So lots of moving parts that are going on at the same time as focusing on that target state. Some of the other challenges that we're grappling with from a technology perspective is, which I think obviously resonate for quite a few people, is, you know, security and data is obviously a massive area that, especially as we're moving into cloud solutions, that we need to make sure that we are fully protecting and not exposing ourselves from a data leakage perspective, and that we are protecting ourselves from any security attacks that could come down the line. So we are fully conscious of everything that we need to put into place in that space, and that comes with it some challenges in itself. And then finally, the last one, you know, I'm fortunate that, and one of the team members on here is, I've got an excellent team that, you know, sit behind all of this, but recruiting them, you know, taking a while to make sure that we were getting the right people for the role. We've talked a lot about on this call about, you know, it's not for everybody, and you've got to have a right kind of mindset and skill set in terms of that. So that was something that we took quite a while to make sure we were getting the right people for the role. And the kind of areas that we're focusing on is really a rounded kind of view of what somebody could deliver, and making sure that they had a range of different skills to cover vendor relationships, stakeholder management, as well as technical skills, a bit of product. You know, it's no longer kind of a linear kind of focus of what skills we need. You need a range of different skill sets to kind of cover in something of a transformational program. So they were the kind of challenges that we've been grappling with, and we'll still continue to do so as we move forward. But hopefully that's helped provide a little bit of flavour to what we're doing.
Yeah, thanks for going through that. I think that war for talent, as people have coined it, is really difficult at the moment. And as you mentioned there, those kind of softer skills, and I know you mentioned it, Natasha, in terms of kind of communication, and that being kind of key to the success of projects, because ultimately you've got different stakeholders that you have to manage and report back to, and if that's smooth and communicated well, then that tends to help. I think that's everything we had prepared, and we can probably move across to the Q&A. I think if I pass back to Maria, that's okay.
Yes, thank you so much for your very insightful discussion, and thank you for sharing your personal stories. I think you're all an inspiration for other women who code and who want to have a tech career. We have a few questions in the Q&A. So the first one, I think you should all share your opinion on that. Is, do you feel that being a woman was a disadvantage for you in the tech industry? Why or why not? So we would like to hear if you have some personal stories, and if being a woman has been a disadvantage for you in the tech industry.
So we're very fortunate at Asda that we invest quite a lot in our women in technology and women in leadership programs. So we and that's one of the areas that I'm quite passionate about as well, is making sure that, you know, I'm also encouraging other women to progress in their career in the technology space. So from that side of things, I feel like Asda is a very supportive kind of employer. There, probably my main experience that I would sort of draw upon in terms of from a disadvantage perspective, I think it's kind of that perception, really, that initial perception of whether you're technical enough, and that was one of the experiences I had when I wanted to apply for a leadership role. It's like, well, I didn't realize you were technical, or do you have enough technical skills to kind of go for this role? And the fact that it was even being questioned before even looking at my CV and I'd gone through the interview process, it was immediate kind of like stand back to me. It's like, oh, you're only asking me that because I'm a woman. But I think that was my only kind of, you know, disadvantage of where I kind of, you know, see that question in terms of my skill set. But like I say, I'm really fortunate that Asda just really do a lot of promotion in this area and supportive in diversity in that way.
I think you're absolutely right. It's more about perception than reality. That, you know, I encountered similar style kind of, oh, you kind of capable of doing this job, and there was, you know, you have to be quite strong as a woman in this industry to be able to kind of rebuff that. But equally not feel like you need to fight your corner at every instance. You know, you've earned your spot, you're there. So, you know, you're doing a good job, and that's great. I think it's one of the bits of research that I saw probably a decade ago now that really resonates with me in this space. It's where there are 10 requirements for a job application from research, men will apply if they know 2 or 3 of them. Women won't apply if they don't know 2. And I think that's where we put ourselves at a disadvantage sometimes, because we're so worried about, oh, I don't have absolutely everything. And actually, you know, I think we need to do ourselves a justice and say, you know, I can do this job. This is why I can do this job, and don't feel like, you know, women aren't great at selling themselves at interview. I've sat through lots and lots of technical interviews, and guys will absolutely tell you till the ends of the earth how great they are when you know they haven't got experience because you're looking at their CV. Whereas women are much more, well, I did this little bit, or I maybe, and I think, you know, actually being really articulate about, this is what I did, this is what I did, this is how I feel about this is what I'm really passionate about, is absolutely fine. No one is going to be unhappy with that. And I think just giving ourselves license to be really clear about what we can do and what we enjoy doing will really help women get jobs in technology more and more.
I think that resonates with me as well. I've definitely seen the same thing. Women are generally overqualified, and I've seen people seeking qualifications they really don't need, you know, like they really don't need them, because I know if they have a little bit of a play, they'll be on fire, you know. So I think there's something about, I think that's also how we think about ourselves though. So one thing I'd say is, yeah, be prepared. We're working in an environment where it's okay to fail, it's okay to learn stuff, it's okay to say in an interview, I don't know that yet, but I do know is X, Y, and Z, and I'm really keen to learn about that, and, you know, work on that, because linking to what Chloe's just said, others would do that in an interview. Why shouldn't you? And if you are keen and if you are passionate, you can see that people's faces light up. So you're like, oh yeah, that's genuine for them. I would say I think most people have comments that people make sometimes, and they don't mean to make them, they just make them. So sometimes I think it's about knowing your worth as well, and being able to stand behind, I've done this for X amount of years and I am good enough and I do know what I do. And that's just a comment that somebody made, and I don't need to react to it. I don't need to stress myself out, because I'm a professional and I know my stuff. So I would say I've had a lot of support. I've had some great mentors, men and women. I've had incredible people who've supported my career, and I think they really are out there, and actually people just want to see you can do a good job. So don't let your head or anything you've got going on affect that, is the advice I would give.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for stressing this out. And I can see also in the chat, people are saying yes. we should be more confident in our abilities. And Cloë, you touched upon this question a little bit. So Jessica is asking about the interview. So she says that my interviewing skills are terrible. She works, I mean, she has a good communication in terms of job and work ethic and flexibility and curiosity. She has a package, but her interview, she's lacking in interview skills.
So for me, there's a couple. A couple of options here. One is that you work with a really good recruitment consultant and you say to them, look, I'm not very good at interview, but I'm happy to do tests in advance or show my technical skills, and actually get the recruiter to position that with the firm and say, look, happy to sit through assessments or to script some answers in a set time frame, and go at it that way. And I think we as employers need to be open to different ways of interviewing people. And I've done some bits recently where we've interviewed really autistic people because they're great at their job and they're really good at coding, but actually they couldn't cope with the interview process. And I'm happy to do things in a different way if that helps us get the right talent into the job. The other thing is you need to improve what you're doing at interview. And so the only way you can do that is with practice and not take yourself too seriously. Yes, you're being interviewed for a job, but again, it is only a job. Like practice some questions, practice with friends. I always go into a job interview of like, I want to get to know these people. Am I going to like them? Am I going to enjoy the job? And that's my only remit. They can ask me what they like in the meantime, but actually mostly I want to get a feel for them and understand. And that confidence comes with experience, I get. But the only way you can do that is practicing and just trying to chill out and don't take yourself too seriously.
I think a good tip from me there as well is tell your story, not somebody else's, and keep it to your own experience that you know and that you're the expert in, because it's a lot easier and it's a lot more genuine to articulate your own experience and what you've done and what you've been through. I think where people sometimes trip themselves up is that they want to tell a story they think that the interviewer wants to hear or embellish something a little bit, and that's where you can ultimately get caught out, and that probably creates that stress. And I think there's been times where I've certainly interviewed people and some of the answers that have resonated best for me is when they've said, I don't have experience in that area or that field, but I've done something similar and it's XYZ. And that's made me think, okay, well, they've handled that quite well, because I've sat on the other side of the fence where you don't necessarily believe what somebody's telling you, and that puts me off as a potential employer a lot more than somebody that tells their story, stays in their lane and articulates what they do well.
Can I just jump in with a bit of practical advice? I find, so I've been managing people for about 15 years. I've sat in a lot of interviews. I find some people just don't prep for them. So I would really be true with yourself. And are you prepping? Are you thinking about the questions that are going to be asked? Because I reckon, without knowing if I spoke to Cloë or John or Claire, we'd ask similar sorts of questions. So like, even if you're not going for that job, do you know someone you could ask what type of questions you might be asked? Just so you're not on the back foot. It's just an idea.
Would you also like to share some advice about the interview process or how someone can?
I would echo everything that Cloë and Natasha have said. Like you say, preparation, as Natasha said, there's common questions that you're naturally going to get asked in terms of, to Chloe's point previously about failure. I think it was Cloë that said that. I think that's definitely key in terms of how you've reacted to that, and also focus on various situations whenever you're telling your story. To Joan's point, what have you learned from that experience that will then help, for changing your behaviour or what you do differently. And I think finally, if you are struggling with terms of confidence or any shyness and things, just be really honest about that and just say, look, I'm sorry, I'm not really good at this, but I am in my role, but I might need some support. And then the interviewer is, we're all human, we all have a similar feelings and weaknesses and doubts, etc. So we will help guide through that if you are just honest in terms of what support you do need.
Perfect, thank you so much. The next question, I'm going to combine the next two questions together. So for someone who is just starting into the technology career, what will be your main piece of advice for this step? And also, if you like to make it more exclusive, for the first day at work. So if you could share like one piece of advice for someone who was not in the technology industry before and they're now stepping in this industry. Can you share some practical tips?
I think my advice from a career perspective would be to explore different areas. There's so much out there in the digital space and transformation as well. And there'll be some areas that will be really of interest to you, and then there'll be some where you'll start out, you think that you're on the right path and you're not. But that doesn't mean to stop. Keep going, explore, find a different avenue. Look at, oh, I like that bit, but not so much in terms of, you know, the infrastructure, for example, or something like that, and really kind of, you know, explore different avenues and see what sparks your interest, and then flow from there. Don't just kind of try and focus on one specific path and think that you've got to stick to it.
I think for me as well, you only get one chance to be the new person once, and so take the opportunity and ask loads and loads of questions and speak to loads of people. So whether it's new to an industry or new to a job, you know, use that new girl or new person piece for as long as you can. Probably only a few weeks or maybe a month and a half, but you know, I'm new here, how does this work, what's your opinion on this, and just gather all of that information is really valuable, and people will give you the time of day because you're new and you kind of you're able to ask that question. The other thing I think is really important, not only early in your career but all the way through, is that continuous improvement. So self-evaluation and continuous improvement. So most days, if not at least once a week, I sit and spend some time with, like, right, what went well, what didn't go well, how could I have improved that? Actually, could I have brought so-and-so into that conversation sooner? Those kinds of things I think are really important. And it doesn't matter how long you've been working or how experienced you are, there's always ways that you could have done things differently. And don't beat yourself up, evaluate, move on and do things differently. If you need to apologise because you did something wrong, then that's absolutely fine. But go and find that person, say, look, this hasn't quite worked out, could we do things slightly differently? And just keep going, I think would be my advice.
I think I'd only echo kind of what's been said. I'd just say be curious. And also, I agree, you can only be the new person once, but there's something which really has worked for me in my career in terms of always being interested. So actually, if something new comes up, or you overheard something and you know, there's an initiative that's on, I don't know, the work intranet, if you're the person who's always interested and you're always the one who's putting your head above the parapet, or whatever that phrase is, people will know you and they'll know your brand. And if you can identify opportunities to help others, then it's only a positive thing. It's the person who joins and doesn't really connect, perhaps because of a myriad of different reasons, that struggles to get a bit of traction in their career. I think people are really happy to help, and sometimes very pleased to explain things to you because they think, oh, it's great, someone's interested in this. So be curious, I think, is my biggest tip.
I think,
and find the information, I think, is the other one. Sorry, John, I was going to say, like, you know, go and find the information, look through documents which already exist, so you're coming prepared to those meetings.
Yeah, just on the day one tip, I think for me, don't overthink it. I think everyone's been in that same position. Probably your manager, your mentor, whoever you're buddying up with, have been in the same shoes that you're currently sort of sat in. So don't sort of overthink it. And I remember getting shown a diagram once, and it's if you imagine a large circle and a small circle, and the large circle is your circle of concern and everything that you're bothered about, and the small circle right in the middle, the tiny one, is your circle of control. And it doesn't really matter what's happening on everything that you're concerned about. The only bit you can control is really in the middle. So just to keep taking care of that, keep ticking that box, keep doing the stuff that's in your control, and the stuff that you're concerned about, you don't actually have any influence over. So it's kind of wasted energy anyway.
Thank you so much for all your advice. I will keep the be curious, be interested, be useful, be confident, and enjoy it as well, because it's your first day. John, you have shared in our discussion before that having a mentor can be very valuable for your career. So one of the participants here is asking, how do we find a good mentor for career guidance?
Ask is the first step, I would say. It's interesting. I think, Cloë, you mentioned it earlier about being a mentor, being a two-way street. So I mentor 3 people currently in our business. And I find those conversations really rewarding because I just talk about my own experiences and things that I did and things that I tried. And as we go through those conversations, I'm thinking, well, I've not done that for a little while, or I'll give that another go and try that again and stuff. So it really helps. But I think whoever your manager is, whoever your leader is, that's the person to ask. That's the person to be curious with and kind of say, I'd be interested. And it won't offend that person that you're asking for a mentor that maybe isn't that person. It's just that you want to kind of learn things, see things through different fresh eyes at times and stuff. But it all comes from that first step of asking, or even if you know that colleagues have got mentors, how did they go about that? What network did they reach out to? And it might be that you step across offices, locations, departments and stuff. But yeah, it comes from asking.
I'd just echo, if you were interested in being a mentor, the amount that you get back as well from participating in that relationship.
I would say if you're interested in getting mentor, be clear on what goal you have from that mentor. So I found like when people have said, oh, I'd like you to be my mentor, like my thing is on what? You know, if there's something that you know you want to learn, it's better to go in prepared with, this is my goal and I want to spend X amount of time with you and I want to explore X, Y, and Z. Because again, that gives the mentor the best opportunity to help you. So I'd say some of it's on you. And the other thing I was just thinking about is look at your current network. I think sometimes I have a squad at the moment. I manage a team of 9 people. And sometimes we look outward and we think, oh, we need to find this mentor that is somehow a mythical creature that sits around us. You might already know someone and it's just formalizing that relationship. It doesn't have to be an expert. It doesn't have to be the CEO. It could be someone you already know. So definitely utilize your network is the other thing I'd say.
Completely agree.
The next question is about handling work situations. So one of the participants says that, okay, I'm stuck in a project, but I want to work in a different one. But the management doesn't want me to change the project. So they want me to work on the assigned projects. Can you share some advice of how can someone maybe express that they're interested in working in another project, or how they can go with the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's communication. So, speak to your line manager, speak to the senior at the other team, find out, what's going on. What is it that's attractive about the other project? Are you just bored where you are? And as an employer, that's really hard to manage because we need to get the boring projects done as well as the exciting ones. And sometimes it's not going to be possible because this needs finishing. Once this is finished, then we can look at new opportunities. But I think it is about having those conversations, being curious, as Natasha had said, and saying, I'm interested in different things. I'm interested in this, and I suppose articulating why it is that you'd rather be on a different project. So I'd really like to be on this project because this part really interests me. I've done a bit of research and I like this particular element. I'd like to expand my knowledge in whatever it is. Those kind of 2 or 3 statements like that, I think hold a lot of weight. And if it's possible, there's no reason why someone wouldn't move you, but it isn't always necessarily possible because some projects just need finishing. If you're an expert in one project, that will slow that scrum team down, or that swim lane down by losing you out of the project. And so in some instances you have made yourself invaluable and you're going to have to wait a little bit. Great,
thank you for sharing. Claire, would you like to add something?
I was just going to say, it kind of links back to that point Natasha was making around sort of being clear on your goals and articulating that to Chloe's point of how is moving on going to achieve that goal and that development. And like you say, it's not just in a case of this just isn't interesting. It's like it'll aid my development in X area.
We have another question about job listings and requirements. So one of the participants is asking that many job postings have as a requirement a degree. So as interviewers, do you still take into consideration people that are self-learners, or they have done a bootcamp or an online degree instead of a university degree to get the expertise on a specific field? Would you consider such people for the job?
I have an interesting example here. Where I was previously working, we were looking at new associates, or the first level to come in. The people who were really successful didn't necessarily have a degree, but if someone said they were actively studying something in their spare time, or they built an API, or I don't know what else they did, or here's on my website, it depends what level you're going in at, I'd say, but actually a lot of the time what I'm looking at is, are they really enthusiastic and keen? If they showed some knowledge and maybe put some of their spare time into doing the thing that they say they're passionate about. Because someone turning up and just saying, I'm really keen to know about testing, but I don't yet know about testing, I think, oh, that's quite a big risk for me as an employer to take you on. So I'd say qualifications are to an extent still important. I also work in consultancy, so I would say that, right? And I did go on my journey and got an MBA to support my business knowledge and understanding. But I think employers are open to, and I've been open to, learning about people who are self-taught, who really are showing a passion for what they're doing, who are going to sort of the BCS or are going to Agile courses, or going to a meetup every evening and they're presenting there, because you can't buy that passion. Someone could have done a degree but not have that, and that's what I'm looking for.
Thank you so much for sharing, because at WWCode, we empower women to excel in their tech careers, and we strongly support involvement in open source projects, building their GitHub, getting knowledge outside the standard path of just having a university degree. John, you wanted to add something on this as well?
I was just going to say, for me, it would be, what have they done in place of that? So some people don't have the means to go to university, and that's not an option for them. But what have they done in place? So somebody went to university for 3-4 years. What did they do in those 3-4 years? Was it something meaningful? Was it something that they wanted to work on to advance themselves, to learn new skills? And for me, it would be kind of, is that life experience that they maybe replaced that degree experience with, is that something that gives me confidence that this is somebody that's got a growth mindset, they want to achieve, they want to drive their lives forward? And if they can demonstrate that, then for me, that is on a par. And it totally depends on the job role and stuff like that. And certain roles have a different prerequisite to others. But it's kind of like, not everybody is fortunate enough to be in a position where they can go to do a degree and take that time out. But what did they do in the meantime?
Thank you so much for sharing this very helpful advice and all the insightful comments. I think all the participants have benefited a lot from attending this session. And we're slightly over time, but before closing, I would like to give you the chance to share your final advice to people that are transitioning to the tech careers. Your final piece of advice.
Well, you've thrown us all, I think. So my advice is to be passionate, I suppose, and that's what's got me to where I've got to choose something. I think, John just said it: be curious, ask questions, be enthusiastic, and be passionate about what it is you want to do.
Yeah, I think to add to that, just as the world of technology is just constantly moving in such an exciting way, and I'm so excited to see where things are going to go with AI and machine learning and the opportunities that it'll bring. So I think, embrace them exploration, and understand sort of how you can fit into building that into your career, because I think there's going to be the world of opportunities. I know people kind of talk about it in terms of taking over jobs, but I kind of see it more in terms of actually it's expanding the jobs that we'll be doing going forward. And I think it's such an exciting time, and we're on the curve of that revolution. So it's watch this space, I think.
I think I agree in terms of be passionate, be curious. It's a great space to work in. I love my career, and I'm really proud as well to be part of some of the transformations I have been part of. I would also say be kind to yourself. Like, if you're trying to get into a job, I think I can definitely speak from experience. It's hard. And so be kind to yourself. But also, if you're working in a transformation project, hopefully we've resonated today, we talked about today, it can be a challenging place to work. That makes it exciting, but don't push yourself too hard, because you won't be the brilliant individual that you can be.
I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank the panelists for their time and their insights. It's been really good today. And my tip would be, don't fear failure. Some of the greatest failures spawn the best opportunities. So I think go into things, be curious, try things. If it doesn't work first time, you never know. You might have just set on a path, particularly in technology, that could lead to endless bounds.
Thank you, everyone. It has been really inspirational. And thank you, everyone, for participating today. We really look forward to seeing you again in one of the next Women Who Code events. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.